Stay tuned for more key comics you might want to add to your PC. What's up, comic fans? This is Rusty again with Collector Auctions, and in today's video we go over key comics that I've picked up from heritage auctions and from whatnot. And then I'll ask the question, are these books that you would want in your PC, or maybe you already have them? Please leave a comment in the comment section as you watch the video. But before we begin, make sure you hit the like button, slap the subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that way you don't miss out on any fresh content that I put out each and every week. Now, let's get to the books. Coming in from Heritage Auctions are going to be 3 slabs that I picked up from one of their weekly comic book auctions. 2 of them are key comics, while the third is just pretty cool and definitely a high grade. And I'm pretty happy with all 3 of them. Let's start with the first one. That's Moon Knight #1 in his first solo series with his own title, his own name on there. This is by the immensely talented Bill Sienkiewicz. Wonderful artwork from this. I actually own a piece of original artwork from Bill from this series. It's one of the later issues, but it does have Moon Knight in it, so it is very neat. It's very, very reminiscent of Neil Adams' artwork. If you go back and read this series, there's a lot of similarities in what he did, and I think he actually was criticized at the time for that. But I don't think you hear that much anymore. Just an immensely talented person, wonderful artwork, groundbreaking when he went to New Mutants, of course. But this is, I don't think these are his first books, but this is definitely just some fantastic artwork. #1 came out in November of 1980, and it features the first appearance of Bushman and the first appearance of Khonshu. And as a 9.6 right here, as you see, this right now is a really good value. As I said, I picked it up from Heritage Auctions. It is the most commonly graded book out there. There's more 9.6s out there than any other, and a price on this has been all over the place over these last 2 weeks. Even I went back, I was checking prices, and it was all over the place. Normally I would give you the last price sold, but because there's so many close together, I decided I will give you a range from the last 2 weeks, what have been selling. And most of these sales have been on eBay, and they've literally ranged from $113 all the way up to $340 on eBay for a 9.6 of this. Now, I paid nowhere near that $340 mark. It was much closer to that $113 mark off of eBay, off of Heritage Auctions. So I felt like I got a pretty good deal. It wasn't a great deal, but it was still right in that ballpark where I'm really comfortable having this now in my PC at a 9.6. A 9.8, though, right now, just days ago sold for $375. So that tells you right now what that is worth. I didn't go back and look too far back when the Moon Knight series was getting ready to start. I'm sure a 9.8 on this probably spiked by several $100s more at that time. But right now, literally $375 is the most recent sale on that. Now, during that same auction, I also picked up another Moon Knight. This is issue number 29, and again by Bill Sienkiewicz. Just absolutely, I love this cover. It was so dynamic, and I'll tell you this, there's no spec on this. There's nothing significant that happened in this issue, but it was a 9.8, and this is since the TV series has come out. And again, the market's gone down, and the heat off the Moon Knight TV series has cooled significantly. And I felt like I picked this up for what a 9.8 goes for these days. Right now, a 9.8 goes for about $90. Now, I paid in that neighborhood of that, probably a few dollars more, only because of the fees and the taxes and the handling charges that Heritage puts on to every order. But it was right in the ballpark. I wasn't looking to spec on this. This is definitely the one that I said earlier was just a really cool comic that I wanted in my PC. They had a lot of Moon Knights in this particular auction. Some of them went for a lot higher. There were a couple more keys that definitely went higher, and I was basically looking for a bargain. And when you watch Heritage, I think the initial bid, or the last bid I put in, was maybe $68. But by the time you get the buyer's premium, taxes, fees, service charge, shipping, all that, it was closer to that $90 mark. But I'm just happy to have this in my PC. It's really nice. That's a beautiful presenting book right there. And I was happy to have it as a 9.8. All right, so the last book I picked up from this auction was a personal favorite of mine. It's a book that I've been picking up at just about every comic show that I've gone to over the last year and a half in hopes of trying to get that 9.8 by taking it into my shop, giving it a good clean and press, having some good luck picking out really good candidates, and I have not been able to get there yet. I've been able to get some 9.6s out of that, and I've had some that have graded down to a 9.4 even, but I cannot get that 9.8. And this popped up on Heritage in the same auction that I got the Moon Knights, and I'll show you what it is. It's X-Men number 213. This came out in January of 1987. You've got Alan Davis doing the artwork on the interior and the cover, and of course it's written by Chris Claremont. And it's the first time you've got Wolverine and Sabretooth battling on the cover here. Fantastic artwork. And other significances about this book right here, it is the first time, I shouldn't say the first time, I should say this is when Psylocke joins the team. She becomes a member of the X-Men at the end of this book right here. She really has a really good battle, holds her own against Sabretooth until Storm and Wolverine can come save her, and then Wolverine takes over and they have the battle with Sabretooth, of course. And it's just a personal favorite. It's a book I want on my PC. It's not a huge project, but there's definitely some value in this. And over the last year, as I've been buying these books, I've been eyeing the thought is I would get my 9.8 for my PC, but I would be able to get other 9.8s that I could help pay for these orders and pay for the comics and everything, and I just haven't gotten there. And since then, with the market dropping, the value on this has gone down. Right now, a 9.8 in recent sales off of eBay, that's the most recent sales off of Go Collect, it's ranging in the last couple weeks from about 175 to 200, give or take. And then a 9.6, which is the most common grade that you will find on this book, actually drops down to a recent sale of $91. And you can see my frustration because I've got 9.6s sitting there in the bins that I can't really sell, can't really do anything with. It's just not worth the time right now. I'm just going to sit on them because it's almost like giving them away after you buy these books. And these books generally, you go to a show, they generally range in that $25 to $35 range. And if it's really a really spectacular cover, I've seen people try to sell this for $70. And I think that's a little nuts. But I think what they're doing is they're keying in on how difficult it is to get this book without having a tick. I'll show you the back. The back has this Dungeons and Dragons cover, full bleed cover, that's really dark, and it really will pick up spine ticks like crazy over on this side. And I tell you, some of the ones that I've sent in have been really super clean. No ticks. There's no ticks, and I'm still getting knocked somewhere along the way. It's very frustrating getting things graded by CGC sometimes. So right now, really good. Really just happy to have this on the PC. It's going to sit there. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm going to stop and not continue to buy this book and continue to get it into CGC and try to get that 9.8 too. I mean, I've already bought more books. I've got Rawls out there ready to be pressed, and probably you'll see that in one of my key comic books. That's what's in my press episodes. And I'm sure I'll get around to that one, pulling that out and out, because I definitely have at least one, maybe two copies in there right now. So we'll hope on those for someday, but for right now, this copy is a straight-up PC book. I am so happy to have it. This right here is a great wall piece. It's, as I said, it's not very expensive, but people come over and they see this cover. They really, it's a real people pleaser. People like to talk about this right here. It really makes them start talking about what's going on in this story. So I hope you enjoy this book, because I don't know, do you have this book in your collection? Do you have any of these so far in your collection? Leave a comment in the comment section. Definitely let me know. All right, so moving over to Whatnot, I actually ended up buying from a dealer that's right here in the Maryland area. They're really just down the road, about 30 minutes away, down in Crofton, Maryland. They're a comic book shop called To Be Continued Comic Shop, or TBC. And a week ago, I ended up watching their video. I'd heard about them before from a fellow collector who had recommended me going down to their shop, and he said they also have a really good Whatnot show. So a week ago, I ended up watching their show, and like wow, my friend was really right. They really have some really nice books. And I ended up bidding on a few things. Favorites, definitely some key books that have seen better days. The market on all of these books have gone down, but what I see in the books that I picked up from them is all three sets of these books, because there's definitely some different copies here with some different themes that are similar to and everything. They will definitely, I think, go back up in value when we get more from the MCU and even from the DCU, or in the DC Comics when they do more with this particular character, and I'll reveal that in just a second. But the first set of books, I should say, that I picked up are Captain America number 25 and All New Captain America number 1. I picked this up as a set. And what we've got here, let me put it this way. What I've got here is issue number 25 came out in December of 2014. It is the first time that the Falcon took over as Captain America. And I don't think it was the first time he wore the uniform, but it was definitely the first time he's called Captain America. And this book has seen better days, because after the Falcon and Winter Soldier went off the air, all the news, all the spec on the books basically cooled back down. But we've got a movie coming out at some point. It's going to be Captain America number 4, and you've got Sam Wilson still going to be playing Captain America. So these are going to be bumped up, I'm sure, in price once again. So I'm going to definitely try to get these in to be graded and have them on hand when that time comes again. But I'll give you an idea. Issue number 25 right here. Right now, just a couple days ago, sold on eBay for $130 in the most common grade, a 9.8. And I'm not even going to give you other grades because these are such modern books. Anything below a 9.8 is going to drop off significantly, probably well below that $100 mark. So right now on eBay, this rate goes for $130. But to tell you where the speculation and the heights had kind of gotten to, and I don't think this might have been the highest price, but back in, I want to say 2021, before the show came out, this book right here was hitting heights of about $526 off of eBay for a 9.8 version. So you can tell it's dropped quite a bit at that point. But again, I think it will increase. I don't think it will increase to that number again, but you never know. I'll have them on hand ready to go. Now, issue number 1 of All New Captain America, this I think was the first cover appearance, and actually, yeah, definitely it's the first cover appearance of Sam Wilson, the Falcon, as Captain America. What you've got here is second appearance of him as Captain America, so it's definitely the first cover. And this is it's a lot less of a key than this book. It is only an $84 book as a 9.8. And again, I think that will get bumped up as well. And we'll see where it goes from there. We just have to kind of wait on that a little bit. I'm going to get them in the CGC, wait for that new film to come out, and we'll see if we can get a little bit of more value into these. In the meantime, I'll be glad to have these in my PC at this point. I think I had this book and graded as a 9.8. I think I ended up selling that. And here we go again. I'm selling a book, and I literally replaced the book with another copy. I feel like I'm running in place sometimes, guys. But what do you think? Do you like these books? I think these are great books to have. They're nice keys. Artwork in both of these are really good. And as I said, they came out in 2014, and I think this was January 2015. So they're right practically back to back, and just some really good artwork at the time. I think artwork these days have really kind of gone downhill since the mid-2000s at this point. But these are really good books. I enjoyed reading them for sure. So hopefully you have these in your PC too. Now, also from the same auction, I picked up 2 comics. They are the same issue, just different covers. And these were books that hit some pretty good heights and very popular a couple years ago at this point, with a startling new, surprising character that just took the world by storm, but has since really cooled off. Hopefully, another creator will take this character and really flush her out and really bring her up to popularity. And who am I talking about? I'm talking about Punchline. And what did I pick up? These two issues right here. It's the same issue. Year of the Villain, #1, Hell Arisen. And I've got both covers, cover A, cover B. And this is the regular cover right here. This is the Federici cover right here. I've had both of these issues in the past. I think I ended up selling this copy. I got a 9.8 on that, and I sold that. This one, I've got a copy that I've got James Tynion to actually sign, and that's in my PC right now. And I would have sent it in to his signing at CGC late last year, except the book had a little bit of damage in one of the corners, and being a perfectionist, I didn't want to lose that 9.8 on something like that. I'd like to get that. If I was going to put the money into it, I wanted a 9.8 version right there. Now, if I had this one right here, this one looks super good, and I would have loved to have this copy right there. I would have sent that down to Florida and had him sign that. But regardless, I've got them both now, fresh, raw, back in the collection basically, and these are books. Punchline was hot for about a year, and about the time I got into CGC, getting my books graded, I kind of got onto the Punchline bandwagon about that point, which honestly was about the height of how expensive these books were. And I know that on one of the ones I got graded, I paid way too much and got it graded, and it was a little bit dinged, and the grade went down, and the value just plummeted. So it's going to set in the PC. Nobody will ever want that book, and there's nothing I can do about it. It's a really bad color-breaking spine tick. Well, it's not horrible, but it's there. And this one, though, came out really good, but I know I paid a pretty good, I wouldn't say a premium, but I paid a pretty good price for it. But I ended up, in the end, when I sold it as a 9.8, I definitely made my money back on that one. It just definitely wasn't probably as much as I would have liked. Kind of got out of that book. But here I go again. I got back into it again. And right now, the prices are really very, very reasonable, and you can pick these up pretty, I wouldn't say cheap, but you can pick them up pretty good. Of course, this is by James Tynion, and Steve Epting did the artwork in there. I didn't even realize that. I met Steve Epting down in Charlotte a couple of years ago and had no idea that he had worked over on these particular DC books. So anyway, as I said, first full appearance of Punchline. A 9.8 on the regular cover right now still actually has a really good price. Somebody just paid, it was the best offer, so I don't know the exact price. My guess it was closer to that $200 mark, because I've seen some $175 sales on this one as a 9.8. But they had it for $235, and a best offer was accepted. So my guess it was probably closer to that $200 mark. This one right here was the last sale on this. This actually still does pretty well as well. It was back in November of 2022, just a couple months ago, and it sold for $150. A 9.8 on both of these modern books is the most common graded book you're going to find out there. 9.6 is on this. Even with the popularity when it was at its height, a 9.6 really wasn't commanding a lot of money. You had to get a 9.8. But hopefully we'll see, as I said earlier, a creator will take Punchline and maybe do some new things with her that will help increase that popularity. I think a lot of people still believe in that character, and we'll see where what happens. And maybe one day these books will go up in value. I'll go ahead and get them graded at some point and just hold on to them. And I think I'll be okay because I didn't pay a lot for the pair together this time. And the next time around, I think there still definitely will be a market for this first appearance of this key character. All right, so the last book that I ended up picking up from TBC, To Be Continued Comic Book Shop in Crofton, Maryland, was a book that I've got in my PC right now, and I've got it signed. I've got it signed by the creators on there on the cover. I just need to get the cover artist at some point. And came back as a 9.8, so this is a book that's in my PC. This is a book right here I bought to get graded and to possibly have as a trade book at some point, or to use it, maybe just sell it straight up. But it's a book I love. I love this cover, and I'm talking about this right here. It is Something Stealing the Children #1, the Jenny Frison cover. This cover right here is the cover that got me into Something Stealing the Children. It's a book that I didn't see initially. I didn't pay any attention to it until about issue 7, but somewhere along the way I saw this cover and it spoke to me, and I that's when I started going back and trying to pick up some of the back issues. I was very late to Something's Killing the Children, but since then I've definitely picked up some key issues. I still don't have everything, but I do have this one right here. And I sent this book down to Florida, the CGC, last fall for the James Tynion signing, as he had some of his other artists, well, his artists were there on some of his key books, including Deladera on this book right here, and he also had his artists from Department of Truth and Nice House on the Lake. But I sent this book in to get signed by both of Deladera and Tynion, and I got that back, and there was a little bit of a tick on the back cover there. Very minor, very, very minor. It wasn't color breaking, but it was just, you can barely even see it. And I got lucky. It really comes back well. It came back as a 9.8. I was super excited about it. But I wanted it graded because I hope at some point to be able to send that slab to a signing with Jenny Frison, have a facilitator or CGC crack it open at that particular location, if it's a convention or a store, I don't know. But to be able to get her on this book as well, that is a goal that I would like to set for 2023 on this book. But this one right here is definitely one I'm going to hold on to. I'm going to get it into the shop. We'll get it pressed. We'll get it into the CGC at some point with hopes of getting another 9.8 just on an unsigned universal copy, of course. A little bit more information about this. This, of course, came out in September of 2019. It was a much more valuable book, again, over a year ago. This book was white hot during 2020 and even into 2021. I wouldn't say white hot, but very hot. And I've paid good money for copies of this particular issue. This one, I don't think I paid more than $100 for it. And that is honestly probably, I wouldn't have gone much more than that because there's not a lot of meat left on the bone if you get it graded, because with a 9.8 right now, there's been several sales over the last couple of weeks that it's ranged from $158 to $279. So it's kind of all over the place. So if I pay $100 for this right now, $25 to $35 in fees and shipping, and if I wanted to sell it, I couldn't sell it for $158. But if that's where the market is, that's where the market is. And if that was the case, then I would just hold on to the book. Gives you an example of this volatile market right now and how you may want to hold back on selling some of these books unless you really need to. I'd hate for people to go out there and have to liquidate collections because they put too much money in it. They're too far over their skis. It'd be nice to hold on to books like this. This book right here is just another great key book that people, when they come into your home and they see your book sitting there, and I have my displayed one up in my office, so when people come and visit and they see it in my office, they look at that and like kind of freak out a little bit too. It's a scary cover and great conversational piece. But this one right here, I hope it grades out really well. We'll probably have that one up for sale at some point because the signed one's going to stay with me, of course, and we'll see where it goes. Hopefully we will get, I think it's Netflix, or is it Amazon? I think it's Netflix has the option to it. Hopefully they will do a good job on that. I don't hold out a lot of hope. If it had been Amazon, for example, I think the show would be just absolutely fantastic. I have a lot of faith in Amazon shows, but Netflix, I don't know. There's something off about a lot of the shows that they do there. So maybe it's just I don't know. It's probably part of the budget. Probably they're not having the audience they really need to put the money into these productions like that. I'm rambling about that. Hopefully we'll get that show and we have some news about that, and books, Something's Killing Children, will increase in value again. But for now, I've got this on my PC again, and I hope that you have this book, or maybe even got the original cover. I never could get the original cover. It went way too high too quick, so I don't have that, but I do have some of the other lower numbered issues. So guys, I hope you have it in your collection. Let's see where it goes in the next year or so. Also from Whatnot, I picked up a book from a new seller that I have never bought from before, but I stumbled upon their show. It's from a group called Discovery Bay Comics. And I have just kind of wandering around Whatnot and looking at what sales were happening one night. And I happened onto their auction. I think I probably missed out on some really good books because this was at the very end of their auction. And they had a wonderful copy of Invaders Annual #1. Now, this is a book I just recently picked up back during the fall at when my LCS had this for sale, and a very nice copy, just as good as this one right here. And I saw this one pop up again. This right here is the very last Alex Schomburg cover, and there's your significance. That's what this book is. I don't want to say really hot, but it has really come to prominence on shows that on YouTube from a lot of comic book sellers are spotlighting this book because of this cover and because of the artist. He's such a well-known and glorified golden age artist that people want any of his work that they can get. And this is, of course, his very last cover. It's the most affordable, I'm sure, at this point. But I'll give you some information. A 9.8 on a book like this went back in November. The most recent sale I could find was November last year of $408. The most common grade that you will find on this book is a 9.4, and it goes for about $120. Now, this book looks really good. The spine and the squareness of this square-bound book looks fantastic. There is a little bit of an issue down here in the bottom corner, and I don't know, it looks more like it's more of a printer defect than a human defect, if that makes any sense. So I'm excited about getting a second copy of this into PC. I don't go and press a lot of square-bound books. I try to find the most perfect examples I can so I can limit how much I do in the press. I'm still learning. That's probably one of my weaker areas, is dealing with the square-bound books. But this one's going to be a great starting place on one of these like this. There's no, as I said, there's no defects up and down the spine. On the area right inside where the staples are being covered up, there's no rubbing of the staples as they protrude maybe slightly where the paper is covering them. It all looks fantastic. And what was nice was they also threw in a freebie, a True Believers reprint of, I think this was the reprint to the very last issue of Infinity Gauntlet. And you've got the George Perez and the Ron Lim George Perez cover here. You got, what is her name? It's, oh my God, I'm completely blanking on her name. Nebula. In the comic, she was the granddaughter of Thanos, and she gets control of the Infinity Gauntlet in this and just wreaks havoc. I don't remember exactly what happened to finally defeat her, but she would have been worse than Thanos, maybe. She was. I actually really liked that character when they introduced her in the Avengers, but it was mostly because it was John Buscema and Tom Palmer doing this fantastic artwork that just made her a really good character. Just a beautiful character at the time. As you see, she actually has hair on this and looks a lot less robotic than they made her in the MCU. But what a great little bonus that they threw in right here. But the real treasure is definitely Invaders Annual #11. Can't wait to get that in the shop. Guys, do you have this book? Have you been noticing that you're seeing this book more often? Maybe it's because I watch so many other YouTube shows that I see this book out all over the place now, but I think it's just because I'm got an eye for it at this point. Maybe it's one of those, like, if you buy a car and all of a sudden everywhere you see your car everywhere. It's only because that's what your attention's on. That's what you're looking for, really. So that maybe that's the case, and I'm just seeing this book more and more because I'm literally zeroing in on it unconsciously or subconsciously, I guess. So anyway, hope you guys have this in your collection. I haven't actually read this, so before I press it, I may actually just sit down and read the book a little bit. So guys, that is it from Discovery Bay Comics. I think I will check them out again on Whatnot the next time I get a chance, and we'll go from there. Okay, and finally, the last book that I picked up of Whatnot is probably a little bit less of a straight-up spec book. It's a little bit of a FOMO book for me. It's a variant cover, which is something that I've been getting away from, but I got watching a YouTube show, and I kind of got caught up into wanting to buy it because, oh, it's limited, and it's a special cover, and the COA is a lava foil, and that's even special. Maybe I just got caught up into it. I spent a whole $40 on this. and we'll talk about it and we'll see what I'm going to do to it. And I'm talking about this right here. This is Thanos Death Note #1. This is a Davis Rider exclusive cover by Ken Lashley, and this was on the YouTube channel, on the Whatnot channel of Davis Rider. He's on Whatnot all the time. In fact, I think as I was doing the show, there's a show on right now that I'm not being able to watch because I'm doing this. He's on there all the time, and he sponsors a lot of different covers. I think this last year he finally was able to start doing some Marvel books, and I think he was pretty excited about that. Does a great show. It's actually entertaining even if you don't buy stuff. He does a great show on Whatnot. But this was Thanos Death Note #1, Ken Lashley cover, and I'll show you there's the COA. This is number 207 out of 500, and if I want to, I'll see if I can turn it a little bit. It's a little hard to see on my camera here, but this is a lava foil hologram, I guess. Yeah, it's more of a hologram type of a COA on there. And he explained why there's only 500. They literally had to destroy over 500 of these books that they got from Marvel so they could take the print run down to 500. Seems really awful to destroy comic books, but what they were trying to do was increase the value of this book by making it even more limited. And in fact, that's how they do a lot of these limited books. You'll see something's only printed so many. There's only 200 copies of this book. Well, they didn't just do 200 and turn off the presses. They kept doing that because there's going to be damage and defects. And then if you're going to have it limited like that, they have to destroy the comic books to make those 200 actually be legitimately out of 200. But as I said, this is limited to 500. I don't know what I'm going to do with this at this point. I told myself to stop getting into these variant covers. They don't hold their value. So, and then the other half of this is, with a brand new book like this, there is no CGC 9.8 on this book, on any of the regular covers or anything. It's too new. It is brand new. And I don't know what I'm going to do. Should I send it into CGC right now and try to get it back as soon as possible and hope that there's going to be value? Or should I do what I've been doing more recently, which is hold on to that hot book for 5 months, 6 months, and let's see if there's any real sustaining value in that. I've seen it both ways. I had Black Panther #3, the first appearance of Tosin, his son, Black Panther's son. And I held on to those books, and the value really held their ground. And I got those graded, and I've done pretty good on selling some of those 9.8s. But I held back, let me see, Thor, I want to say Thor #20. Is that, or is it 21? I can't remember. The first God of Hammers. That was a hot book for a hot minute. And if I had gotten that graded right then and got it back within this 2-week, 3-week mark and rushed it in there, I think you could have done really well. But holding on to that book now, it's a $50 slab at a 9.8. It's not even worth sending in at this point. So sometimes you hold them, sometimes you fold them, sometimes you lose, sometimes you win. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this right here. My instincts, or my head, is telling me just hold on to it and let's see if there's any real value in this book. My guts tell me get this into CGC tomorrow, get it graded, and put it back up for sale, and to see if there's a market to it. Because in the end, it won't cost me a lot to get this graded if I just send it in. Even if I just do it by myself with one single book, I could still rush it and get it back in here. But that's a little bit of a gamble, putting a little extra money in for the fast rush, getting back quicker and everything. I don't know if it'd actually be worth it. It might be fun to do a video on that, though, and just see where we go from that. Have to think about that. Maybe we do that. So who knows? Who knows? What do you guys think? What should I do? Comment on the video. Let me know. Should I just send this into CGC right now, get it back, and we'll put it on the market and we'll see where it goes? Maybe we track it that way. It might be interesting. So let me know in the comments section, and we'll see. All right, everybody, that is it. Tell me, what do you think of these books? Are these books that you want in your PC? Would you want these books in your PC, or do you already have them? leave me a comment in the comment section and I'll respond to it as best I can. And before I go, I just want to thank everybody again for watching the channel. I am currently cleaning and pressing a ton of books, and I will be doing future videos where I go over some of the key comic books that are still in the PC, as I did in one of my previous episodes. And I will continue to do comic book hauls, and there were some comic book shows that I headed to, and I will be doing a video about those books that I picked up. More key comics for the PC, guys. More, I can't stop. You go out to the show, and sometimes they're small keys and sometimes they're big keys, and you'll just have to stay tuned for a future episode of that. I can't wait to get that one in there. It's going to take a while because it was 2 shows in one weekend, and I picked up a lot of great books, and I want to be able to give you guys a lot of good information. I want to give you values at 9.8s, and which explains why I target really high grade books when I go out there. And I'll also give you the most common grade and what the value is that currently. And normally I'm not looking to give you a fair market value. I'm going to give you some of the most recent sales of that book so you can see on a more timely basis what these books are worth in real time, rather than doing an average of what the value is over 6 months, which may not even make the price relevant at this point. So I'm rambling again. I do this a lot. Let me know. Let me know what you think of these books. Tell me which books do you have in your PC and which books do you want in your PC. Or maybe you don't want them. Maybe you think these are awful books and you don't. I shouldn't be looking and putting my money into these. Let me know. I'd love to talk to you about it. But guys, take care, and I will see you for a future episode.